heart of high school wrestling is here in Adams County, and nobody covers it like WZBD.
You guys got a heck of a view.
It's time for Haggard, Hirschy, and Zelt High School Wrestling Weekly.
Everybody wants to be there.
It's the coolest thing in the world.
90 minutes of interviews, results, discussions, and prognostications.
I'm excited.
As Hall of Famer Rex Brewer and Dane Filling bring you another episode.
We hope that you can join us here
Live from
the Double Eagle Clubhouse Grille
on Channel Z.
I'm excited.
92.7 FM.
Well, welcome wrestling fans to a very special edition of High School Wrestling Weekly. And we are, of course, not live from the Double Eagle, as the snowstorm has hit Adams County and most of the Hoosier State pretty hard. So tonight we're trying something new and a virtual session of High School Wrestling Weekly. We're going to give it a shot and try some new tricks and even try to teach an old dog and Rex some new tricks here on the 13th episode of High School Wrestling Weekly. Dane Filling live here from my 100-acre farm, the Double Eagle, spending tonight not cooking for us, but we'll be back there on Sunday next week as hopefully the snow will be gone. Frigid temperatures throughout the week coming up will make for some interesting practice schedules and add another layer of difficulty for local teams preparing for the sectional. We'll talk about all of that coming up here in our 90-minute program. I am solo now. We'll be joined by Rex and Josh in the next segment, and we're going to take a hard look at the ACAC tournament for those of you who were unable to listen or attend. And, of course, we'll be joined by both Rex and Josh for our second period, where we'll take a look at the NE8 and talk about how Belmont did. We were very blessed as Belmont comes away with the NE8 title. Adams Central takes first and South Adams takes second. So I believe between the two schools, we had 26 finalists in the two conference tournaments. Then in the third period, we'll talk a little bit about the team state tournament that was for the girls on Saturday. Talk a little bit more wrestling around the state. And then we'll briefly discuss the sectional seeds and what those might look like, talk about the history of the Jay County sectional, and take a little bit more time to talk about what it means if you don't have school and what preparation looks like and how difficult that can be for some of the young men and a handful of girls who are preparing for this upcoming sectional weekend. Thankfully, I think the weather is going to be okay, and we should be able to get all 32 sectionals off and running. I haven't looked at the forecast for 2 weeks from now, but lots and lots to get excited about. Once again, Dane Filling live with you here. If you're listening, you're on our YouTube channel, and we will have a replay on 92.7 FM once the girls' basketball draw is done. That goes from 6 to 8. We are now through the regular season in high school wrestling, so no more wrestling through the week, and it'll just be Saturdays until we get to the state finals. Of course, the first round for that wrestled on Friday, and of course, we'll have High School Wrestling Weekly all the way leading up to and after the IHSAA state finals in Indianapolis, and it's going to be an absolutely great postseason that we're really looking forward to. We take a quick look ahead at our schedule on WZBD just to keep you in the know. We will have Pacers basketball tomorrow in the afternoon, and I have a feeling that we are going to be without a girls basketball broadcast tomorrow night. Most of the county schools have already canceled for tomorrow. We also want to point out that we have some very special programming here over the next week for our Lutheran Schools Week and our Catholic Schools Week. And the first edition of that is going to take place on Tuesday night at 6 o'clock. So if you have any little ones like I do at a Lutheran school, make sure that you tune in on Tuesday night at 6 o'clock for that programming. And that'll be followed then by the big game between Purdue and IU. Lots of Purdue and IU talk over the last couple of weeks with the Hoosiers winning the national championship in football. And of course, with Purdue dropping their last two games, it's a very interesting matchup. And we also want to point out, for those of you who are not Peacock subscribers, that game will be heard live with full pregame Tuesday, and you don't have to worry about buying a subscription. Then on Wednesday, we should have, hopefully, a great matchup between the number one team in Indiana, regardless of class, in girls basketball. That's Warsaw. They will be in the TP on Wednesday, and if you're not going to make it out to that game, make sure that you listen in, as Matt and Lou have the call. Then on Thursday, we'll have girls basketball for South Adams. And then on Friday, we will have our Catholic Schools Week programming. That will begin at 6 o'clock, and it'll be followed by what should be an absolute dandy of a boys varsity basketball game between Adams Central and Heritage. Heritage coming off a nice win this weekend and back to full strength. Then on Saturday, it's the high school basketball coaches show. That will begin at 8 a.m. Matt Conversay on the call for that one. We'll have the opening round of the Jay County Wrestling Sectional on our YouTube channel. And then when we get to the next round, to the semifinals, we'll be on both YouTube and on 92.7 FM, all the way up to the conclusion and the trophy presentation on Saturday. It's going to be a great day of wrestling. We'll have a 3-man crew. We'll have special interviews. And, of course, that will be audio only for us due to IHSAA regulations. And then next Saturday, we will have a good game of boys varsity basketball in the N8 with Leo and Belmont. That is our schedule going forward here on WZBD. So if you're joining us for tonight's show, sit back, relax. We're going to recap everything that happened. If you missed any of the action in the ACAC or in the NE8, we've got some special gadgets and special things up our sleeve as well. And we've got a couple of interviews that you may have missed out on if you weren't able to tune into our coverage this weekend. Or maybe you were there in person and you obviously weren't listening in either. So we're going to bring in Josh and Rex here in this next segment. For right now, we're going to thank our great sponsors. And when we come back, we'll start talking some ACAC wrestling. You're listening to High School Wrestling Weekly here on WZBD.
When faced with the difficult task of making arrangements for your loved one, many emotions and questions arise. What would they want me to do if they were here? Where is the money coming from? How much should I spend? Do they want burial or cremation? The staff at Haggard, Hirschy, and Zelt Funeral Home can help you navigate these tough questions. Make your wishes known and allow us to make sure that your wishes are carried out. Call Ryan Hirschy or Eric Zelt at 260-724-7167 to schedule an appointment today.
Shop local. It's a phrase we hear all the time, but for the staff and family at Package Liquors, it means something extra. Package, with locations in Decatur, Monroe, Berne, and Markle, is a local family-owned business that has been serving local communities for decades. We take your support and patronage and return it by supporting local athletes on WZBD and donating to different organizations across Adams County. The next time you're deciding where to shop, shop local. Shop at Package. It's where your friends shop.
Based out of the Indiana Tech Wrestling Facility, the Warrior Regional Training Center is an elite training center for youth wrestlers, high school wrestlers, and college and senior level athletes. Featuring a college coaching staff with a strong history of developing talent and producing results, Warrior RTC will give any wrestler quality training partners to push them to new levels in the state-of-the-art 25,000 square foot wrestling building. The training is affordable and private training is also available. Put Warrior RTC in your corner this season.
Welcome back here to High School Wrestling Weekly, and we are now joined by Josh Gaskell and hopefully Rex coming up here soon. Welcome to the program, Josh.
How we doing? It's a nice wintry Sunday, huh?
Yes, it is, and I hope that we've got everything worked out here. We're pulling out all the stops to get people excited for this edition of the state tournament. What if we just didn't admit Rex as a guest? What do you think?
Well, it looks like he's coming in there and he's got his swag on.
Now we're talking, and we are good to go. And gentlemen, we saw some great wrestling this weekend. It was a lot over the course of not even 24 hours, but when it came down to it, Adams County team showed up and really performed.
Yeah.
Like the backdrop there?
Yeah, I always give a hard time to what is, everyone dibs as D County, but Adams County for, Belmont, Adams Central, and South Adams, they're going to make some noise at semi-state tournament. Maybe take the title of the county. So we'll see.
Rex, what was your takeaway?
I saw some good wrestling Saturday. Friday night, it just got so late. I think we were all kind of punch drunk, but there were some good matches. But I don't think anything went different than the way we thought it would. I think that the ACAC, it kind of went as planned. I mean, the guys that won were supposed to win, and the guys that didn't win. And I think same for the NE8. I know that Belmont put a lot of guys into the finals. They had quite a few runners up, but there were some pretty tough matches in the finals for them.
Well, we're going to take a look at some of those key matchups and reminisce a little bit and do our best to tell some stories here. So let's go ahead and get started and see if I can get this to go correctly. First off, your team champions for, I believe, the third straight year were Adams Central. And I don't know if you guys felt like it was a foregone conclusion or if it was just something that we should expect. But really, Adams Central, I thought, wrestled well throughout the night. And, they get to that row there of 4 or 5 guys who are winning just about in every duel and reaching the finals in every tournament they enter. That's where they really sort of butter their bread.
Yeah, I expected maybe the only slight, upset. I thought, they would keep the going from 38 on all the way up to 75. That match between Morales from Heritage and Miles Carr was a little bit of a shocker. We saw Carr lock up the cradle and then maybe just kind of forced it a little bit. But once they get to 50, I could see potentially 4 guys be sectional champs. And, that Duval match versus Bradley at regionals, they could have possibly 4 champs at regionals too. So ACAC showed that they're really strong at those weights.
Your team scores: Adams Central finished first with 270.5 points, and South Adams was second with 224. Starfires beat out Jay County by 12 points, and Bluffton came in fourth. And I'm actually kind of surprised that Southern Wells finished fifth, 1 point ahead of Heritage, because Heritage ended up with 3 champs. And that Woodland program just really struggling right now. So let's jump into it here and sort of honor some of our top performers. And if I can get this to go. The first one that I have on the screen for our viewers / listeners is Max Adams. So Josh, I'll let you take this one. I believe Max was down 12-2, comes back and gets the fall.
Yeah, we said, on Friday earlier that match was wrestled at ECIC, and Max fell to Wank by tech fall. I believe that was in like 2.5 minutes, maybe 3 minutes. It looked like it was trending that way again. Adams had a roll through tilt that gave up 6 points, but then once he got on top, he turned him in a wrist and a wing, and it looked like Adams knows how to maybe control Wank from here on out. So that was a big statement win. It'll help him definitely at sectional seating time.
Yeah, and I was down on the floor. The picture that I've got was when you guys were calling that one, and I was lucky enough to kind of get in on the conversation, or at least be able to overhear what the South Adams coaches were saying. And I believe it was Sawyer who just sort of quartered Max, who was trying to take off his singlet and get his warm-up stuff on. And he just said, that's why we do the things we're good at. And I think the message was, don't worry about falling down 12-2. Just keep working at what you're good at. And, if you get that opportunity, if you find that window, you jump on it and you take it and you seize the moment. That's exactly what he did.
Yeah, I agree. And, that's what I said on the broadcast on Friday. Once you get to this point in the season, you got to simplify your offense and, your defense and do the things you're good at. So we showed that in Max Adams, and that was a huge statement win.
Well, okay, let's move on then to our next wrestler to be recognized here. And that is Brock Sprunger. And Sprunger up on the screen now, finishing off the fall with Jim Bopp down there, looking for the shoulder blades. You've seen Sprunger a lot more. Both of you have actually than I have. That's not necessarily one that I expected, but after watching him on Friday, he's the guy who could make a really deep run in the tournament.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Me and Rex have covered him several times. He's got several individual tournament, accomplishments this year. He's pretty big for 113 pounds. He doesn't necessarily look it, but he's big for 113, tall, lanky. And that match was also a tech fall that he changed over this, ACAC. And it's another one that's huge because that puts you ahead another guy that, you were already behind come sectional seating time.
And I think those Jay County matchups with some of the guys that we've seen Am Central Belmont a lot, but those Jay County matchups in the ACAC, they're going to have a lot of weight in the seedings coming up for this week.
Yeah, and let's not discount just how good Silas Wank has been for Jay County, going back to Max Adams' win. And Drake Hicks earned his number 1 seed there for Southern Wells. And Sprunger was just all over him and looked awfully, awfully impressive. And then, Rex, I'll let you speak first on this one. South Adams makes it 3 in a row with another title for Dakota Sprunger. And, he's not necessarily flashy, but man, does he always seem like he's in control of the situation.
We've seen a lot of him, and he's really impressed me. It's like you don't get to see a lot of him wrestle because he's on and off the mat pretty quick. I'm not sure he's only got a handful of losses, 2 or 3 losses on the season, but he's been solid for him, and he's one of those guys that really, really kind of surprises you if you don't see a lot of him, and he's not ranked high in the state, but when he comes into sectional, he's going to make some noise.
We move on then to a photo of Cale Beer having his hand raised from earlier in the year, and he's one of many Adams Central Conference champions here. He's the first one for the Jets on Friday night, but Rex and I had a few of his matches very early on in the year, and it just seems like he's taken himself to a different level this year.
We saw him wrestle at the AC invite just last Saturday, and he had a tough match in the finals against the Homestead wrestler, and just didn't seem like he was in his match, but I think he wrestled a lot better at the ACAC tournament on Friday night.
Another wrestler that we haven't spent much time talking about because we don't see them very often in our schedule, but Josh already briefly mentioned him. That's Max Morales. I have him up on the screen for our viewers now. And, we aren't nearly as well informed about those Carroll sectionals and the Carroll regional, but I would have to think that we're going to see him at the Coliseum. Don't you think, Josh?
Yeah. There's, we kind of looked over the Cade Foster and Dakota Sprunger a little bit. Cade Foster had Dakota Sprunger in some trouble in that match that Dakota ended up coming up away with the pin, but that was a close one. Same with Max Morales. I think we're going to see both those guys at the semi-state level for sure.
Rex, what did you think of Morales?
Like you said, we haven't seen a lot of him, but we see him a lot on the baseball field. We know he's just an incredible athlete. But after watching him some at the ACAC duels and then watching him Friday night, he's dangerous. I mean, he's so athletic, he's dangerous, and if he catches a guy, he's pretty good.
Okay, we move on now to a guy that we've been talking a lot about over the last couple of weeks, and that's Wyatt Mann. he comes through with the ACAC title, beating Parker Barnes 10-4, and not a surprise to you, Josh.
No, and it seems like all things are maybe trending for a head-to-head matchup with, Gabe Myers at sectional level. It seems like, one of those two guys is going to, take control of that weight. And then, the other one's going to probably draw Sam Mosier. And so both guys with great weekends, ranked wins. And so, another big win over another ranked opponent in Parker Barnes.
Rex, what did you think of Wyatt Mann?
Same thing. I think that because he'd been up at 50 for part of the season, coming down to 44, that makes sectional a little more interesting. And with Mosier coming in at regional, it really gets exciting.
Certainly a lot of respect being dished out by Indiana Matt in their semi-state rankings for a couple of those guys. And we've seen Mann, he makes every match interesting. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he's able to do these next couple of weekends and hopefully getting some interviews for him, because I'd really like, at least I haven't had a chance to really talk to him about what his year has looked like and maybe what he's done different or what he did in preparation. So he's always a fun interview in the past. Okay, next up, Dylan Ogg. I've got Dylan Ogg up on the screen from earlier this season. And, he makes the switch with Dubois. I don't know if it was necessarily out of nowhere, but comes through, takes out Gabe Steiner Friday night 18-3. And I don't know, what do you guys think his ceiling is going forward in this postseason?
With him at 50, I don't think there's any limit. He has no limits because at 57, I think he was challenged a little bit because some of the guys at 57 were big. I thought he was a big 57-pounder, but when he goes to 50, he makes a lot of those 50-pounders look small.
Yeah, I'd agree. He looks really big, don't want to give the commentator jinx, but, I wouldn't be shocked to see him in the semifinals at the state tournament. Technique-wise, he holds just a clear enough level with all those other guys technique-wise.
Obviously, last year a semi-state champion and a state qualifier, and we've talked about it a lot on our show and on broadcast before that those guys, when they reach those points and they realize what it feels like to have that much those types of accomplishments and have that much success, then they just double down on their efforts. They double down in the off season, and they work even harder because they know they don't want to feel that disappointment of not reaching it a second time, and they get hungry for that next step. And I definitely feel like Ogg's one of those guys who is not going to be content with a work rate that's going to leave him face one of the top 2 or 3 guys in the state on Friday night. He wants to win that semi-state title and put himself in a position to join Mav and Brayson as potential state medalists. So we go to the just mentioned now Mav Dubois. Him on the screen with his hand being raised by our good friend Tyrone Wilson. And, I think he's another guy that a lot of people in Adams County just kind of take for granted. This is his senior year. He's had a ton of success. He won a state medal last year. He does bump up to 157 after Ogg drops down. But have you seen anything, Josh, where you think that Dubois is going to drop any 50-50 matches with some of these guys ranked below him?
No. I think, we talk as a semi-state level. There's 3 guys, that are, I think, head and shoulders above everyone else in the semi-state. It's Jackson Bradley of Cowan, Lincoln Carter of Eastside, and Mav Dubois. And, you guys got to see the Dubois Bradley match. And, I think, there's some things that Adams Central could take away and improve. And, we're going to see that at regional, and I think it could be a lot closer match. But, those two or 3 guys, they're going to make noise at the state level, hoping they don't see each other at the semi-state in the ticket round.
I think my take on Mav is that he's he's pretty much a blank slate. He's emotionless. He never changes his expression, whether he's winning by tech fall or if he's down by 2. He's just a steady workman, just goes about his business. And I thought he was huge at 50. We knew he was cutting a lot of weight to get to 50. And at 57, I think it's a lot easier for him to drop into. I think he'll feel better at 57. And I think that he'll actually wrestle better at 57 than he did at 50, because, you know, when you're battling the scales, you just don't have any juice left when it's time to wrestle the match if you've cut as much weight as some people have. And it's like, I think him at 57, it's stronger for the team, stronger for him, except for those 2 guys at semi-state are ranked number 1 and 2 in the state. That's the only downside.
Yeah, we talked about the math and sort of the odds and the way it plays out. And as we discussed on Friday night, and I'm sure some people that are listening now were listening to that, but we'll repeat it again. You know, you've got number 1 and number 2. You know that Bradley is going to be on the opposite side of you if things hold, and even if you lose to him in the regional final, then you really have, you know, 3 different options, and 2 of them are pretty good. It's just the one option is really, really bad, as long as you think that Leakin Carter is what he proved to be last year and what he's proved to be all year long. That's a really tough matchup, and you'd hate to see it in the ticket round. But that's our tournament. That's just the way that it works.
You know, Josh and I were paying attention to Adams Central and South Adams at 1A. We didn't really get to watch Lincoln Carter wrestle, and he didn't wrestle that much. He was on and off the mat so quick. I think he had a bunch of quick falls, but I haven't really seen him. You know, seeing Dubois and Bradley wrestle, Bradley is just so smooth, so slick. I mean, Dubois was in that match with him, and then you look up and he's down by 10. And it's deceptive of how good Bradley is. So the Bradley Carter matchup is an interesting one to me.
Well, let's move on and make sure we get through the rest of these guys. We'll talk about Brayson here for a brief minute. And Brayson Shortgen comes up with another ACAC title. He beats Nathan Plattner 19-6 in the finals. Anything that you boys picked out from Brayson this week that you liked?
He cut from the same cloth, I think, as Mav Dubois. You know, you would win a title, or you see him win some big matches, and you think, man, we're going to get a celebration out of him. And he just it seems that he likes the grind. You know, he likes, I'm sure, getting his hand raised, but, you know, a conference title is nice, but he wants to win the sectional, regional, semi-state, and then make noise at state. That's when I'm looking to see the reaction out of him, and I'm sure we're going to get it this year.
You know, he's that same way. He's not flashy. He'll just come out. He'll hit doubles. He'll tilt you. He'll pin you. He just goes about his business and finishes matches. And then there's nothing flashy about it.
Let's move on briefly here. We got a couple minutes left in our first period to Xander Schwartz, who would not have been listed, I think, for most people in that list of studs. We talked about Cale Beer kind of elevating himself up to the level of those big 3 for Adams Central, but basically Schwartz has put himself right there as well.
Yeah, and he's one of maybe the guys that has gone under the radar just because of, you know, they've got so many studs from 50, 57, 65, but that's one guy that, you know, I think when the new rankings come out, they do before sectional, you know, he might crack the top 5. I know he's floating on the high end, but he's one that, you know, he can go feet to back with anyone, and he'll stick you once he gets you on your back.
You know, he's got like 2 losses this year, 3 losses, I think, and he's the same way. Josh and I said that he drives the bus. You know, the work crew is those guys in the middle. Schwartz just drives the bus, and he's just as tough as they are. And like I said, he can stick you at any time. He'll catch you with a chin rip, or he'll throw you. And he's one of those guys that's just dangerous in every position.
Yeah, he's maybe a guy that we haven't spent as much time talking about, maybe as we should. He's got a loss to Eli Gall of Northfield, if I remember right. And then he has a loss to Litchfield in those ACAC duels. And I think that's it as far as I know. So, yeah, he's an interesting one, and somebody that, you know, Belmont's had their struggles at 175. Schwartz wins the ACAC. Norwell didn't have anybody there. And so you start looking forward. he could make a really deep tournament run with a good showing at sectional. Our last name up here in our last picture from the ACA seat is Jax Litchfield. He comes up with avenging his loss to West Somerset. And, once again, we talk about guys whose limit is the sky. All you got to do is look at him to see just how good he is.
Yeah, he I was kind of shocked, being a South Adams fan, because the first match was like a 23-12 score, and it looked like Somerset was in control of that. Litchfield kind of flipped the script and, really dominated Somerset. And so it was kind of a little bit of a shock. Somerset's been out, pretty much the month of January, not getting a whole lot of mat time. But Litchfield looked like he wanted to get that one back. And his only loss was Somerset so far in the season. So,
but also Josh and I had talked off air. That did not look like the same match when they wrestled in the ACAC duels. And I think that was early in the season for Litchfield. I don't think Litchfield had a lot of matches under his belt. Litchfield looked a little bit surprised when Somerset caught him early in the match and just couldn't come back from it. He took control in that match and was basically dominated from start to finish.
It was funny, though, at the end of that match. Both the guys, see each other so much on the field, as Litchfield almost had the tech fall locked up, and then he had Somerset in a roll-through situation where Somerset had him, flat on his back, and the tech fall was called, but both guys kind of got up and laughing, knowing how dangerous both of those guys can be. It's kind of a comical moment to watch.
Yeah, and to close out our talk, I made this comment to my wife on Saturday. I would love to see those two wrestle again, and mostly because it would mean that both of them had qualified, and likely mean that Xavier Palacios, of course, had qualified too, and that would just be a really fun class of guys to follow to the state finals if all three of them could make their way in.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, guys, we'll mute our mics and we'll play our next round of commercials, and we'll talk about the NE8 right after this.
The staff at Haggard, Hirschy, and Zelt Funeral Home is honored to serve the community we love and live in. Locally owned and operated by Ryan Hirschy and Eric Zelt, we understand that each family we serve and each life lived tells a unique story. Our goal is to offer comfort, care, and dignity to all who entrust their loved ones to our care. We are proud to call Adams County our home and look forward to serving you for generations to come.
Hello, I am Ben Leakty, native of Adams County, and just like me, First Bank of Bern takes pride in calling Adams County home. I enjoy helping individuals like you realize their dream of owning a home. With our local expertise, personalized decision-making, and unwavering support, First Bank of Bern is committing to making your mortgage loan journey easy. So if you're in search of a home loan, trust your hometown bank, the First Bank of Bern. First Bank of Bern, member FDIC, equal opportunity lender.
You hear it all the time. Do you have the right insurance coverage, but are you really taking that question seriously? Josh Book may be stationed in his home office in Noble County, but he's ready to serve you if you're listening to this broadcast, no matter what county you're in, and help you get the best insurance for your farm, business, or home. A proud insurance agent with Farm Bureau Insurance, Josh is ready to have a conversation with you about the rates you're paying and the coverage you're getting. Give him a call and have that important conversation with an experienced Farm Bureau agent today. Find out more at infarmbureau.com.
Welcome back here as we continue on into the second period here on High School Wrestling Weekly. Once again, we are joined by Rex Brewer and Josh Gaskell here in our first virtual edition of the show. And guys, I really appreciate the cooperation to make this thing go. And it's certainly better than canceling and not giving all of these boys their due. We talked all throughout the week about how important winning a conference title should be. And we certainly don't want to short any of these young men their accomplishments because, look, we talked to Xavier Palacios in the interview after he had won, and we talked about how important him winning a conference title as a freshman was because he ends up at sectional the next week, finishing 5th, and his season was over. And he sort of had that one accomplishment to hang his hat on and use it to build into his sophomore year.
Yeah, he's pretty steady. I mean, if he gets the takedown pretty quick in the period, he crunches that crossface cradle. He's just so strong. He takes him over, and he wrestled a kid in the finals, and he put the crossface cradle on, and it was done. I mean, you knew as soon as he got him over, it was cinched up so tight. The referee took like a quick glance, and it was done.
Well, and that's neat. He's a 4-time conference champ. I know as far as the ACAC, the list of 4 times is maybe around 20. I can't imagine it being that much more in the NE8. So it's kind of cementing him there in the history of that conference. Being a 4-time champ is kind of neat.
Well, let's jump into those NE8 results. Up on the screen now is the team photo. Lots and lots of smiles. And it was really cool to see all the JV guys in the bleachers cheering the boys on. And so we congratulate the Belmont Braves on their conference title. They finished in first place with 223.5 points. New Haven was in second with 192. Huntington North in third with 178. And we probably should give some credit, guys, to Huntington North. If you would have told me last year even that they would finish third ahead of East Noble, ahead of Columbia City, even ahead of DeKalb, who has had a great middle school team the last couple of years, I would have told you were crazy. But they really do have a pretty solid team top to bottom.
Yeah, it was kind of neat to see, following some summer wrestling. I was talking to some coaches, and they said, Huntington North has, kind of been on the scene as far as the summer wrestling. And they were warning me about some guys that maybe attended the school but weren't on the team last year, or maybe didn't crack the varsity lineup. Now I'm reading about those guys on Indiana Mat all the time, because they've got like 3 or 4 guys that are going to make some noise at the semi-state level.
Wolpert had a really good match with the guy that transferred from Carroll. That kid's solid. He's like their only bright hope down low, but they are like Adams Central. They get those hammers. You start about 65, 75, 90, heavyweight, 215. I mean, they're solid. They're middleweights on up guys. Those guys are really tough. And we saw that at the AC tournament last weekend when they put all those guys in the finals.
Well, guys, let's jump right into it, and we'll highlight a couple of strong performances. I don't have as many pictures up here, but I do want to give shout-outs to Jacob Binniger, who came back and wrestled well to get third, and to the 2 freshmen from Belmont, Bradley Baker and Oliver Ferrote. They both reached the finals, and, anytime you get into a final, you want to compete, you want to win. But I don't want to say they overachieved, but finishing second was a pretty good result for both of them.
Yeah, I thought they both wrestled really well.
Yeah, we talked at the Belmont Muncie Central duel, and Rex asked me, a couple of guys that had stuck out, and Oliver Ferrote was one of those guys too that I said, he looks to be kind of peaking at the right time.
Well, the first picture that I have up on the screen is that of Ben Mills, and we had a chance to talk to Ben when we had a break in the middleweights, and we kind of gave him his praise and told him what Coach Myers had said about him earlier in the year. But there's a bit of confidence there, Rex. I think you heard it in his voice. He knows that he put in the work to come up with these kind of accomplishments.
He's a junior now. It seems like he's been around a long time, but his first 2 years, I mean, he struggled. I mean, there was matches that he lost that he was really not even in, but you see him wrestle now, and I mean, it's a whole different level of confidence that he really wrestled well on Saturday, and it was not a surprise that he come out as a champ.
Mills picked up the fall against Landon Lawhorn of New Haven in 3 minutes and 36 seconds to win his first varsity tournament as a Belmont wrestler. So kudos to him, and that was neat to see, and we really enjoyed it. Then at 138 pounds, Henry Ferrote repeats as champion. The junior wins his second NE8 title. And Rex, you and I have seen the big matches that Henry's wrestled this year against some of the best in the state. And, there's not he's only got 1 loss. He leads the team in wins. And he was in a dogfight at Al Smith for that 1 loss. he's right up there with just about anybody at 138 across Indiana.
You know, he's got that workman type attitude as well, and he stays in good position. If somebody gets in on him, he scrambles so well. Those guys grab that ankle and they dive between the legs and they start rolling, and he wins 80-90% of those scramble matches like that. And he's really good on his feet. And you saw guys on Saturday were in deep on shots thinking, okay, he's going to get taken down, and they scramble out and he gets a takedown, and he can score points quick he tilts guys from his feet, he tilts guys from the mat. I mean, he'll rack up points. Next thing you know, he's up by 15.
Josh, what have you noticed from Henry Farote? What is going to put him over the line?
Yeah, I think the difference I've seen so far this year is maybe just a little bit of maturity on the mat. You know, he's always been able to put up points, but now he's kind of picking and choosing, you know, when to get into the 50-50s. You know, when can I score out on this? And, you know, sometimes as a freshman, sophomore, it was all pace and go, go, go. Now he's kind of slowed down, and he's just kind of taken that step where he, you know, can put up points with a lot more control. And so it's kind of neat to see him develop into that. And yeah, he's gonna make some noise in that Al Smith tournament. Yeah, it was fun to watch him. Each round I would text some buddies and say, man, did you see that match? Did you watch this? You know, I think, did he beat the Penn wrestler for third and fourth? Yeah. And that's been one at, you know, the guy that's made noise at the state tournament. And so when you're kind of, you know, physically, I don't know what the score was, maybe a 3 or 4 point match, but it physically just kind of controlled him. There wasn't, you know, a doubt in my mind that Henry was the better wrestler that day.
And you look at the semi-state rankings, he's already beaten pretty badly the kid from East Side who's ranked third. He's beaten Pippinger now twice, and I don't think those two are going to touch him. To me, it just seems like we are barreling towards a rematch at semi-state between Hunter Douglas and Henry Farote, and you know, that's going to be one of the most exciting matches in that semi-state, at least for us.
You know, yeah, Henry come up the other side of the bracket from him at the Al Smith, but he wrestled kids that were really good kids, and the matches that he had to hold close to the vest, he won by 1 or 2 points, but he was in control of the match and knew where he had to be to get the win. You know, you don't always have to score 15 points. You have to have one more point than the other guy, and he wrestled that way for like the last 2 rounds, and the consolation round come back, and that's what he did. He just wrestled to win and not dominate somebody.
Well, let's move on to 144. And although Belmont didn't come out with the title there, I do think the match is worth talking about. Malachi Tholner beats Gabe Myers 6-0. And, you know, Tholner is a kid. He's not really in our coverage area, but we like to sing his praises just because we love how tough of a wrestler that he is. You know, I think the window is there for Myers if there is another match between them to score and to pick up a win. But man, Tholner, you know, Myers fought him on his feet. I think Tholner got the first takedown late in the first period, but Tholner was great on the ride when he took Myers down. And I think that is kind of the scary part if you're looking for Myers to be able to win the third in this series.
Yeah, because Gabe didn't even hesitate and took neutral after he got ridden out for like the second half of that period. And then he got taken down by Tholner again, and then they took neutral third period, and so that was 2 takedowns is all there was in the match, and they were good scrambles, but Tholner just ends up winning the scramble, gets takedowns, 2 of them.
How much of Tholner have you seen, Josh?
Oh, you know, I saw a decent amount of him when he was in middle school. You know, they always make a trip to the middle school AC invite, and he, you know, it was kind of fun to watch at the middle school level. But then getting to watch him last year at semi-state, you know, I was kind of singing his praise going into that semi-state tournament because he reminds me a lot of Henry Farote. You know, he's got a motor. He wants to push the pace, and he always comes out on the 50-50 scrambles. You know, and when you can hold a guy down and when you can get away from a guy, you know, you put yourself in the top tier at the semi-state level. And so, you know, I listened to that match, and, you know, I'm excited to hopefully see possibly someone from Adams County knock him off at the semi-state level because, you know, he's dangerous. But, you know, it looks like there might be a collision course, with Manor, Myers at the semi-state level with Thorner again, and
when you look
just
at
kind of how it goes.
When you look at the semi-state rankings and you start thinking about 144, somebody out of our regional is going to end up drawing Tholner in a ticket round match or in a first round match, because you're talking about Mosier and Hops, Myers and Mann. And, that's kind of what you're looking at as far as your top four in our regional, probably. And so one of those four is going to draw Tholner no matter what. A lot of people would like to see the Delta Regional take all four, or the J County Regional take all four out of that weight class. It's very possible.
Well, last year, weren't we scared that Henry's going to run into Tholner, and didn't Henry wrestle him in semi-state just stone him?
Yeah, Henry wrestled in the semi-state finals last year, right?
Yeah, and it was not even a match.
But, we've seen that before from the J County Regional where they, have 3 or 4 studs, and all 3 or 4 of those studs are qualifying at the state level. So it could be like that again, from a couple of years ago.
Mosier's good. We've seen Mosier. Mosier's good at 44. That's a known entity coming out of the J County Regional.
Well, we move on to 150, and the image that I have is of Sam hitting the cradle that got him the near fall to win the match on last night. And you can see Joe Rubel standing up out of his chair, and Nick Coons doing the swipes with the official. It was a really exciting moment, probably the most exciting moment of the day for us, Rex.
Yeah, because he came from behind. I mean, he got taken down, and it's almost like he wasn't in the match. And next thing you know, he's got a minute and a half to go or something like that, locks up the cradle, and he just pretty much rode out the last minute of the match, locked up in a cradle, which is a great place to be because you're just watching the clock run down and you got locked up, and it was a good come from behind win for Sam.
Yeah, he's been fun to watch the way he sits the corner. Guys get down on his legs because he's so long and lanky, but he can lock up a cradle from about anywhere, and that's what makes him dangerous.
I think he lets people into his legs more than I would like him to.
Well, we move on very briefly. We'll give a shout out to Chuck Farrow, who's been really fun to watch. He falls for the second time this year to the young man from Huntington North at 157, Patrick Flowers. But he's such a positive kid, and you can't help but not root for him, and you can't help but root for him. I'm sorry, and he's going to be somebody who's going to get his share of conference titles and sectional titles, and yeah, I just really like watching him wrestle on his feet.
Yeah, and it's I think for the freshman level, he's head and shoulders above a lot of the freshmen. Sometimes you just run into at that weight class, you run into a lot of junior seniors who just have a little bit more mat experience, so he's going to make some make some noise at the semi-state level for sure.
Yeah, and we've seen him hit that fireman carry for back points in the Carroll match. He got caught in a throw, comes back and just took that kid down, put him to his back twice, and the match was over.
Well, we will move to Xavier Palacios, and rather than us talking about him, I'm going to mute my mic. You guys mute yours, and we'll hear what Xavier had to say about his own match.
For the fact that you get a takedown, go right to a crossface cradle, and get a 54-second fall, I don't think it surprised anybody here on the WZBD staff.
After doing it so much, it's almost like muscle memory.
the little guy's picking on you up there.
Gonna have to deal with them later. Well, you win your 4th conference title. You held 4 fingers in the air after you won, and that's a pretty special accomplishment. That puts you in very rarefied air in Belmont wrestling history. Yeah, no, like freshman year, the main goal was just to win conference, so I guess it just carried over the next 3 years. I can become a 4-timer. Let's do it. Well, but I have a special award for you.
Oh.
Today, I hope you're ready for it. Holds special meaning. It is the top of your lock that had to be cut off this morning because you slept in a little bit late.
You think I can reattach it?
I don't know. I don't know if your welding skills are up to...
I've never welded a day in my life.
So maybe it was the extra rest that you got this morning that propelled you to that 4th title?
Maybe. Guess we'll never know.
So X, as we get ready to make our way into sectional next week, we saw a couple of 190-pounders last night that are pretty good guys, but you've had your way with them so far. What do you look forward to throughout this tournament series to just kind of keep focused, to keep on track to make your way back to the state finals again?
Main thing I like to keep focus on is just to have fun. I do the sport because I think it's fun. So I try not to get caught up with all like, hey, this guy's good, or hey, this guy beat this guy who beat me here. I mainly just wrestle to have fun, and the tougher the match, the funner it gets. So
the mantra that you just stated to us, you definitely exhibit with your actions and the way you wrestle.
Well, congratulations on your fourth conference title, and good luck next week at the section. We'll be there to watch it all.
All right, sounds good. Thank you guys very much.
Conference champion Xavier Palacios at 190.
And guys, I love what he said there. You don't hear that sentiment from a lot of high school wrestlers. It is a good reminder that it does need to be fun. I know that Coach Myers talks about it every once in a while and reminds the boys that wrestling is fun and it needs to be fun. But he's a lot of fun to watch.
What I remember about wrestling, but it's been, almost 50 years, there was a lot of times wrestling wasn't fun.
Well, and, it's just, listen to that interview. He's one of those guys that you watch and, he's not super flashy, but he's one of the guys that around our sectional area, semi-state, he's a better guy almost off the mat than he is on the mat. And that says a lot because he's really good on the mat. He always tough matches, with, Kyle Harden. I watch Al Smith, and, he comes off the match, losing, and he's got a smile on his face. And it shows like he really likes to step out on the mat and just compete. And that's what takes you to the next level when it's not just a grind. It's like, you kind of find a joy in the hard practices, the hard matches. And so that's kind of neat to hear that interview from him.
Well, I think the people that wrestle him don't think wrestling's fun.
Well, guys, we're running out of time here in our second period. I do want to give a shout out to Blake Christner, who really needed a win on Saturday and got it in the 5th place match. And I know that that one means a lot to Blake and to his family. So I wanted to make sure that I gave him a shout out. And then the final photo from the NE8 last night goes to Grady Baker. And Grady didn't come up with the win, but by golly, did he give Kuhlman everything that he had. It was 1-0 with 30 seconds left, and he pushed it he kicked that can as far down the road as he possibly could. And that's what you got to do to beat a really good heavyweight.
I think that's definitely the closest match that Grady's had with him in a while. And that guy's just so dominant, and he's a lot bigger than Grady is. I don't think people will realize how big Kuhlman is, until you watch Grady wrestle him. And he made Grady look small.
It was just awesome to see him wrestle somebody who he knew was superior, and he knew what positions he could not get himself into. And for 5.5 minutes, he wrestled the best match that he possibly could. And Kuhlman's class won out, but I think it showed a lot of heart, and I think it gives us a lot of confidence going forward that Grady might just be able to sneak in there to semi-state and find himself a state spot. Okay, guys, that brings us to the end of the second period. We will mute our mics, and we'll play another round of commercials, and we'll be right back after this.
If you're serious about taking your wrestling to the next level, then Warrior RTC Wrestling Club is the place to be. Every Sunday at 4:30 and Wednesday at 6, boys and girls from different elementary, middle, and high schools come together to build skills, confidence, and lifelong friendships. With high-level experienced coaches and a positive training atmosphere, every Warrior learns to work hard and have fun doing it. Whether you're chasing your first medal or your next state title, Warrior RTC will help you in your relentless pursuit of self-improvement. Visit online at warriorrtc.com to learn more about the year-round wrestling opportunities and train like a champion.
Renowned around the Midwest for his skills and his creative abilities, Nate Bowers and the team at Bowers Paint Studio in Decatur work with a wide range of clients, from collision repair to custom paint jobs for classic cars and motorcycles. Located on Monroe Street on the west side of Decatur, Bowers is your place for body work, too, whether it's getting your ride back on the road or finally getting that classic car, the paint job you've always wanted. Stop by or give Nate a call to put the best in the business to work for you.
Locally owned and operated by Shane Reynolds and family, DDD Maintenance and Repair is your place to go for heavy-duty truck and diesel engine repair. Located just outside of Monroe, DDD Maintenance and Repair also offers sand and glass blasting for all of your surface restoration projects. Whether you're looking to get your truck or diesel engine to run like new, or your metal restoration project to look like new, we have a blast renewing the past. Give Shane and the guys a call at 223-5442. That's DDD Maintenance and Repair.
Welcome back here to High School Wrestling Weekly as we wrap up our coverage of the conference tournaments, honoring Adams Central and their title, giving a shout out to the South Adams Starfires for their second place finish, and giving the Belmont Braves their due. You know, they kind of took one on the chin last year when it came to losing the conference title to New Haven and dropping the duel and those types of things. But, I thought Belmont wrestled really, really well yesterday and definitely earned that title, Rex.
Come on, Pete. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, I just think, and we probably haven't talked about it, and it's probably worth just mentioning that New Haven was without Bakari Cooper. And, when you have a team that loses a semi-state champion, you're going to be worse for it. And so that made a difference for New Haven as well yesterday. So let's jump into sectional talk and sectional seating and sort of what that looks like and what we can expect. Now, Josh, you were saying that our good friend Nathan has everything already figured out. What information were you able to glean from him?
Yeah, so I didn't touch base with him a whole lot today, but he figures it out as the season goes, and I think as far as South Adams and Adams Central, they're going to have, and Belmont, I think there's some clear favorites at a lot of weight classes. I do think it's going to be a lot closer team race than what we think. When you add in a school like Belmont into essentially what would be the ACAC is kind of our sectional. With it being close between the AC and South Adams, now you had Belmont in, to have 9 finalists for South Adams at the ACAC, and Adams Central have 8, and, Belmont had somewhere in that number in the NE8 as far as finalists. I think Adams County is going to walk away with, the record for finalists at the sectional level. There's some weights that stick out to me that'll be really interesting to see play out in the finals, and so it'll be interesting.
So you're telling me there's a way that the sectional can be closer than it was last year when both heavyweights are wrestling on the mat and one wins and one loses and it swings the winner who wins the tournament. That was awful close last year.
It's going to be close this year, I have a feeling.
Here's a question for you guys. Can Funk close the gap and give Adams County 14 champions on Saturday?
Yeah, he lost 8-6 over Boots. I think you're talking about the 215.
Yeah.
Boots looked like he was in control early. I'm never going to cut out Funk. We saw that at Team State. You pressure him at the wrong time, he's going to throw you. But 8-6, that's a takedown away. Funk can close that gap, and that would be kind of crazy to have 14 champs.
Well, certainly, I mean, if you look at the results from the conference tournaments and the past results, that's the way that you're looking. And that right now, Adams County would be favored to win, I think, 13 of those classes, with Boots being the only exception.
Yeah.
Well, we talk about the sectional seating meeting and the age of showing up and not knowing much about the other teams is kind of gone, but there is still some intrigue. Obviously, you have weight class changes. You have guys who maybe get inserted into the lineup who have won a challenge match. And you do have, of course, some weird situations where records may dictate that somebody gets moved in a different spot. We've got a couple of guys locally who have changed weight classes in the last couple of weeks. Jacob Vinegar is the returning champ at 106, but he does not have an exceptionally outstanding win percentage because he missed so much of the early part of the season. He is, I had it up here a second ago. I think he's maybe 10-5, something like that, 11-5. And so all of those arguments are awfully interesting when it comes down to one of those seeding meetings.
Well, and
I think that Tim Myers will take the seed anywhere they throw Jacob in and be confident that he's going to still be the sectional champ. I don't think the seed, if he's got a lesser record than somebody else, let him seed him someplace else, and somebody else is going to be disappointed.
yeah, you brought that to mind, and one from South Adams that pops in mind is Braxton Huff. I think that was a guy that was a regional qualifier, and then had a close match last year at regionals. Ended up dropping that to a Delta wrestler, but he has a 9-7 record, and he's better than 9-7. But when you have 6 or 7 losses that are semi-state ranked guys, where does that throw you? There's going to be other teams that bring in guys with better records that maybe haven't wrestled as tough competitions, but we'll have to see how that one plays out and how they fight for, Braxton Huff at 138 pounds.
Do you guys think we'll see anybody? So let's look at it from the opposite side. Do you think we'll see anybody from the other schools outside of Adams County try to make a weight change now that conference has been wrestled?
I don't think so.
No, and we've seen that, in years past, someone tries to dodge, maybe the number one, but it's pretty loaded top to bottom as far as our sectional. You might get a slightly better match, but, I think we've got our clear finalists almost at each weight as far as the sectional goes.
Well, Rex, let me ask you this question, because this is what we get to do because we're commentators. What's a good day for Belmont on Saturday? What's that look like as far as number of qualifiers? I mean, obviously, I think Belmont, a good day has to start with winning the title, but what about qualifiers and champions?
I think down low they're going to put guys into the finals. In the middleweights, they're going to struggle a little bit. They're going to have their up weights, 90 and heavyweight, are going to be there to fight. But I think they're going to put their guys in the finals. They may not win them all, but they're going to have guys in the finals, and they're going to match up against the guys that they had good matches with from Adams Central and South Adams. And I don't know. I don't see anybody from Jay County really stepping up and really throwing a wrench in any gears right now.
What's the match, Rex, that you're looking forward to the most on Saturday?
I don't know if there's no matches we haven't already seen. So I guess I'll just watch them all. So, and it says here our call ends in 7 minutes. So if Josh and I just disappear,
okay,
it's because the call ended.
Josh, what's a good day for South Adams on Saturday?
Yeah, I think last year, if I'm kind of off the top of my head, I think they had 9 qualifiers for the regional level. I'm going to maybe set the bar a little higher. I think 10 regional qualifiers would be a good day. You could set your hat on that. I think, 113, 20, 26, 32, and then you had 40, 50, 57. Eli Loshi, Gabe Steiner, those are people that, could easily make noise at the sectional level. And then you've got Plattner, who's been to the semi-state level in West Somerset. And so the one that, I'm going to push is if they can get, Braxton Huff to the regional. He's a tough wrestler. He pushed Goni from Cowan to a last second, and that's a state qualifier. So he can wrestle with guys like that. But his record's going to hold him back maybe from a good seed. And
Josh, remind us, what weight was Huff and who was in his place on Friday?
He wrestled 38, and, I thought maybe they'd put Rupp in there, Daniel Rupp. He's kind of bumped from 26 to 32, filling. No one wrestled at 138 pounds. So, it's been a couple weeks out of competition for him. I know he's keeping his cardio up, but, mat cardio is different than going out and shoveling snow. So, he can make it to the regional level, and, I'm kind of maybe pushing back on them. If they can get 10, that'd be huge.
Now, I'll put it to both of you. For Adams Central, obviously, a great day for them would be to upset Belmont and win a sectional title. Is the consolation prize for them getting 12 or 13 guys through?
It's a possibility. I mean, I see that Carr's been wrestling really well. Carr has been wrestling. Beer's been wrestling really well. Miles Carr's been wrestling really well. Those guys they're on the outliers. I mean, you talk about their studs, their hammers in the middle, but those guys have been wrestling really well and maybe don't get the due that they should be. But I think those guys have been wrestling really well.
Yeah, I've got them in well over double digits. It's going to come down to a couple guys. Can they get 113 as your leaky, to qualify, who can wrestle with those guys? 120, the fill-in at 144. I'm not sure if that's a new person in the lineup. I don't know if it's Macklin on Friday, but, I wouldn't be shocked to see them upset just based off of, they probably going to have 4 champs. And when you have that many champs at a sectional level and you qualify 10 plus, it's kind of hard to lose in Adams Central.
And I think Belmont's little guys from 6, 13, 20, 26, they're pretty solid. And the head-to-head in dual meets between South Adams and Adams Central, that Belmont has won those matches.
Well, guys, it's been a lot of fun not going out in the snow and not trudging around and getting the snowblower out.
Well, considering you'd made Josh and I stop blowing and shoveling snow to practice and do this setup, so that's a nice thing.
Didn't want to just go into this without any sort of rehearsal.
And it worked. It worked.
Nobody's texting me. It's one of those. Maybe nobody's listening. They wouldn't know any different. But we do want to thank everybody who made this possible, and I also want to give a shout out to everybody who has sponsored our coverage on WZBD.com. We've got a lot of people who take a lot of pictures over the course of the year, and they don't always get reimbursed to the rate of some of the other people in the area, and we certainly appreciate them. Kristen Carr is an absolute all-star for WZBD.com. Patrick Gunsett does a great job for us on nights when I'm not at a place. And Rex, I want to give a shout out to you for allowing me the flexibility to just take the headset off, run and take some pictures, and try to do both jobs the best that I can.
Hey, don't forget those phone shots from the anchor booth that I've taken on several times when you were there as well. So as long as I get the storyline, so I get a photo by Rex Brewer, I'm good with that.
Okay. Well, we'll say goodbye to you guys, and we're looking forward to Saturday for sure.
Yeah. See ya.
So with that, we will play another round of messages and be right back with our final segment right after this.
Hello, this is Joel from your local hometown Package Liquors. Package Liquors provides the best selection of domestic, import, and craft beers in Z-Land. With locations in Decatur, Monroe, Bern, and Markle, you're always just a short drive away from picking up the perfect last-minute gift or just the right six-pack to watch the game with friends. You're never a stranger when you walk through the doors. And our smiling staff never has a problem giving you a recommendation when you're not sure what it is you need. Stop in at one of our 4 locations and see what hometown service looks like. Package Liquors. It's where your friends shop.
When faced with the difficult task of making arrangements for your loved one, many emotions and questions arise. What would they want me to do if they were here? Where is the money coming from? How much should I spend? Do they want burial or cremation? The staff at Haggard, Hirschy, and Zelt Funeral Home can help you navigate these tough questions. Make your wishes known and allow us to make sure that your wishes are carried out. Call Ryan Hirschy or Eric Zelt at 260-724-7167 to schedule an appointment today.
Renowned around the Midwest for his skills and his creative abilities, Nate Bowers and the team at Bowers Paint Studio in Decatur work with a wide range of clients, from collision repair to custom paint jobs for classic cars and motorcycles. Located on Monroe Street on the west side of Decatur, Bowers is your place for body work too, whether it's getting your ride back on the road or finally getting that classic car, the paint job you've always wanted. Stop by or give Nate a call to put the best in the business to work for you.
to our final segment, the overtime segment here on High School Wrestling Weekly, as we try to wrap things up on the regular season. We also wrap things up for the girls' season, and what a successful season that it was, both here on WZBD and for the girls across the state and for the IHSAA, as they picked up the second year of officially sanctioned action. And we definitely want to give them a shout out for that. We take a look now at the state brackets. They're up on your screen now if you're on a screen big enough to look at them, but we'll review them. And I am, of course, proud to brag that the seeds held up for the most part in this tournament. Now, of course, Whiteland chose not to participate. And so they were the state champions on the individual side, and they very likely would have won this tournament had they participated. But that's okay. That was their choice. Instead, it's Crown Point and Coach Strayer who come in as the number one seed. We talked to him last week on the show. And the Bulldogs came through with a 51-30 victory in the finals over the Hobart Brickies. They beat Terre Haute North and Plymouth in the first two rounds. And they came up with a pretty solid victory over Mooresville, 63-18. Hobart, on the other side, came through. They were the 3 seed. They received a forfeit. There were a couple of, I think there were 3 teams, slots that went unfilled of teams that did not participate, even though they won their sectionals. Hobart beat Logansport 60-18. And then Hobart had what was probably the match of the day with Franklin Central. That one went 41-36 in favor of the Brickies. So Crown Point first, Hobart second. Franklin Central beat Mooresville for 3rd place. 5th place went to Logansport. They had a great win in that match. It went all the way to the tiebreaker against the Fighting Tantes. And they went at 43-42. So Franklin settles for 6th place. Hamilton Southeastern took 7th. Terre Haute North took 8th. 9th place went to Lawrence Central. We talked to their coach last week. Benton Central were 10th. And 11th went to Plymouth over Rochester. So congrats to all those girls who participated in that tournament. It was a lot of fun, and it sounds like we have our plans for next year to make that part of our coverage as a standard event that we will cover on WZBD. So we're looking forward to that. Taking a quick look at that championship match, Corabella Wesley and Ava Strayer both taking forfeits in that, as both teams try to bump around those girls, but a 51-30 victory for Crown Point over Hobart in the final. So let's review here real quick our sectional plans. We will have sectional wrestling coverage for you throughout the day on Saturday. We'll begin with the opening round with a little bit of pre-match. That'll be on YouTube only. So if you really want to hear the opening rounds and just settle in for the day and take in some great wrestling, make sure that you join us prior to 8:30. We'll go through the brackets with you. We'll provide you some context, and Rex and Josh and I will call all the action. We'll take breaks throughout the day based on how they take their breaks at Jay County via the tournament director, but we'll have all of the semifinals and all the placement rounds and all of the elimination rounds for you on 92.7 FM as well. And then, of course, join us on Sunday, where we hope we'll be back at the Double Eagle as we analyze those first round matchups in the regional, review some of the happenings from the other sectionals and see how that plays out. And then, of course, the following week is the big one as we get ready for semi-state and those semi-state draws, which are so important for high school wrestlers in our area. Well, I want to thank everybody who helped contribute to this show. I want to thank Steve Gagel and wish him continued recuperation. He's back in the studio. It's great to hear his voice, and he's always taking care of us, and so we were happy to give him thanks and to tell him that we were glad to hear him on the radio last night. He does a great job on weeknights, and he'll be there for bringing us all of the coverage, all of the interviews and so forth. A lot of those things that are clipped from our audio coverage that make their way onto WZBD.com, all of that comes from Steve Rouse as well. So many thanks to him. Thank you to Rex Brewer and to Josh Gaskell for joining us tonight. A big shout out to Steve Thompson at Bluffton for accommodating us on Friday night, and to Coach Jimmy Lynn and the athletic departments at New Haven for being so accommodating yesterday for our coverage at New Haven. And we want to thank the Jay County Athletic Department, as always, for being such good partners with WPGW and WZBD. We're really looking forward to Saturday. So we hope that you've enjoyed the show, and we'll talk to you next week.
You've been listening to exciting high school wrestling. Brought to you in part by the many community-minded sponsors you heard. And a special presentation of 92.7 WZBD Sports.